incoming. Balaji, you want to unmute and say hello to the audience?
Hi. Hi, Nandri Chandra. Yeah, I'm Balaji Ramakrishnan. So welcome all guests. Please, it's a valid support for all our community kids. Nice work actually. So it's a great to have you guys people. Yeah, remember Nandri. Yeah, you continue, Sundra. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So on our tech support, I can't miss to mention, we have our Bomudurai. He has been solid, addressing all tech issues and supporting it to run a quality program behind the scene all along. So I want to thank Bomu upfront, because once we get to the program, we will forget. So I don't want to miss him. Thank you, Bomu, for being our support and volunteer. It's all volunteer hours. So I want to upfront recognize him.
Thank you very much, everyone. Carry on.
Okay, thank you. So this session is going to be in English so that it reaches the wider audience, because it is going to be in YouTube as well. So with that, let's go into the program. Every parent wants their kids to be successful when they grow up, and everyone sees the educational progression and doing well in school as the path to go to good college and then to get to good degree and then get a good job at the end. As Indian parents, we put even more emphasis on this. And as immigrant parents, we do not realize or unable to understand the additional stress kids go through in high school, which affects their self-confidence and mental health in varying degrees. You may have seen the recent CNN headline, which we also floated around, which said youth anxiety doubled during COVID. So COVID adds more complexity to this already existing situation. So we as Tamil Mandram decided to bring the experts in this area, an expert that coaches high schoolers for their academic excellence, while also being cognizant of their emotional well-being and general behavior, general confidence, I would say. And a certified therapist whose profession is to help families and children to feel whole while progressing further. So before I introduce the speakers, I want to mention about the format today for this forum so we can run efficiently. One is both the speakers have professional presentation slides, and they will make their presentation. It's within 10 to 15 minutes is each of their presentation. And then we may, after the first speaker, we may open for 1 or 2 questions, or we may not. We may go continuously to the second speaker. But please post your questions in the Q&A, not in chat. So some questions can be immediately answered in the Q&A. If you do post it in chat, it's very difficult to respond there. So do not post in chat. We won't be able to respond in chat form. We will receive the questions, and I will be moderating the session. And we also received a bunch of questions during the registration process. So we already have received good input or as to what you are expecting as audience. So with that, I want to move to introduce the speakers. The first speaker is Shenba Chokkalingam, who is the president and CEO of ACE Academy. A brief intro on her, and then I will turn it over to Shenba to start her presentation. Drawing from lifelong passion for learning, Shenba Chokkalingam is revolutionizing the education field one day at a time. What started as a favor for a family friend needing school tutoring quickly bloomed into full-time, multifaceted businesses providing educational support for students across the country. Her in-person tutoring center, I actually would like to say as coaching center, ACE Academy, is located in Dublin, California, and offers classes for all school subjects, GATE testing, SAT and ACT preparation, and has its own college counseling program. She also runs Prepase, a platform that allows parents to match with tutors from across the world who specialize in any subject your students would need extra help with. In addition, she publishes academic support workbooks in math, English, reading, and writing for grades K through 8 through ACE Academic Publishing. But above all, Shenba is a mother who knows how important stress management is for students to be successful. The teaching style she promotes, which focuses on academic excellence centered around emotional well-being, has helped thousands of students across the country reaching their dreams today. So that's in a nutshell about Shenba. Shenba, welcome to start your presentation. You are on mute.
Sorry about that.
Can we highlight her, spotlight her?
See,
Can you hear me okay?
yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate Tamil Changam has been doing so many things for the community, and I'm so glad that you picked up this topic for this year. And Sudandra, thanks to you for thinking about this and reaching to me about this. This is such an important topic, especially being in this field, meeting with so many different kids on an everyday basis. I can see how those kids are trying to sometimes survive and sometimes thrive, right? So we have seen so many different instances where the emotional well-being should top any other concerns or anything else that they would have to do, right? So this is such an important topic, and I really appreciate Bay Area Tamil Changam for picking this up and including me in this process of helping the kids all over. So I thank you so much for that. I wanted to present a quick slides to talk more about what we do and how we are helping out. So one moment. Are you able to see my screen? My screen is visible?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to primarily talk about how we focus on not just the academic part of it, but also the emotional part of it, because we believe that education is something that cannot be considered as separate from the person itself, right? You cannot be considering education as something that you open the book, you sit and read, and you memorize, you go write the exam, and that has nothing to do with who you are or who you can be. It's very interrelated. Forget about education helping you with succeeding in life. Forget about education helping you with making you rich or getting a good job. Yes, they are all true. But the most important thing is education makes you who you are, right? It plays a tremendous role in shaping. So what we do here primarily is that we challenge the status quo way of teaching, right? You can look at any other academic centers. You will be looking at, there are so many others, of course, we are all aware of the centers that have been out there for several decades, actually, with the methodologies that have been created like 20, 30 years ago. Most of the centers that you have here, they have these methodologies that were created like in 80s. That's how it is. And doesn't mean that they are necessarily wrong, but that was pre-social media, right? Post-social media, the life is different. The stress is different. The things that they have to go through is different. I'm not saying it's just based on social media, right? It's all about globalization and all the other things that we learn. So this changes how we should be teaching as well, right? So what we primarily do is we challenge the status quo in how we teach. We don't focus on, okay, this is the book, this is the chapter, I explained that to you, go do the problem, right? We try to understand what is the problem with the student, right? So those are the things that we try to do to help the student do better in whatever the academic subject is. So our methodology of approaching the teaching itself is very different compared to the others. So our mission is not just within the US. We have been working with students in India as well currently, and we have some students in Europe as well. Primarily, we teach in India and in the US, and we want to make sure that we introduce a hybrid method of including technology to help us with this approach, because it's very difficult for us to emotionally understand a kid with just an one-on-one conversation. There must be other support that we need to get that to do that approach in a better way. So we employ an hybrid approach where we try to bridge the gap between the education, between the teacher, the student, and the technology. So we want all of that to work together so that we are able to provide a solution that not only understands the kids, but also help them to thrive. That is our mission. As Sudhantra was mentioning in the introduction, I just want to mention this quickly so that you can understand what we do. ACE Academy is going through a name change right now. It's going to be called Prepare Academy. So that's what you see here. So Prepare Academy is the in-person learning center. We are opening up multiple franchises across US. More franchises are coming in Bay Area as well as in other places. We are also opening other franchises in other states as well. So in-person learning center is what Prepare Academy focuses on, and Prepare focuses on online education. So we have online teachers from across the globe who are aligned with our vision, and they are interested in not just teaching the subject, but also making sure that they are able to understand the student very well and help them. And our books that we publish that are sold on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, and Target, and all other places, we focus on coming up with the problems that we write on those books that will be helping the student understand the subject conceptually. And why is that important? That is important because the student will be able to gain confidence. And that is the most important thing. When you are able to conceptually understand a concept, you're going to gain more confidence. And when you gain confidence, that's going to come across and it's going to show in multiple different places. So just a quick intro about our in-person learning center. We have been focused on providing that personalized education. So whoever have attended classes in ACE Academy, they would know that it's very personalized. We offer classes in a group setting as well as in a private setting, but either way, we work with each student individually. They will be working off of the materials that we give them, but those materials will be tailored to their needs. And we train our teachers to bond with the students. So we don't simply hire teachers who would just come in, or we don't hire teachers in minimum wage and they just come in and their job is to just correct the paper and explain that question and go. Like, we really are very careful whether we are hiring teachers for online classes or whether we are hiring teachers for in-person classes. The main thing when they go to through the training, we train them how to bond with them. So the first thing we ask them is, how are you? How was your day? That's how we start. And it's not a formal question. We set aside time. Most of the other classes will be for 1 hour. We spend 75 minutes for the class, and many of our students don't even leave in for 75 minutes. So if we are not able to make sure that our student is in the right place for that day, we focus on that. We change that day's plan for each student's need. So we train our teachers to bond with the students, and we allow the students to reach out to the teachers anytime. So they can email the teachers, they can message the teachers. And we have had so many situations where the students, whether something good happens or bad happens in their school regarding academics, they always reach out to the teacher first. Like if they got an A for a student who is struggling, we have had situations where the student called us first and told us that, you know what, today I got an A. And that is the type of bond that we build with the student. They feel comfortable coming to us. And we try to do that in a very small class size so that we can focus on each kids individually. And we offer programs for all academic classes, elementary, middle school, and high school programs, test preparations, math, advanced placement test, SAT, ACT, college counseling services, any enrichment, languages, robotics, public speaking, chess. We offer all those programs. Our curriculum is based on Common Core, which is the most prominent curriculum that is available. We are also tailored to support other curriculums in some places where the Common Core is not used. We'll be able to support that as well. And in India also, we are supporting the curriculum in India. So our math and English is primarily focused on that. Our high school program is the most dominant of all the programs that we offer, and we offer support for all the subjects, like any AP courses, any math subjects, any science subjects, any test preparations. Our programs for high school cover all of that. So how do we do it differently, right? Like what is different about us? Like you have so many other coaching centers that are available, so many other online teachers, this is not definitely a unique business, right? What do we do differently is that we combine technology as well as the emotional well-being in one package. We don't simply focus on teaching. We don't simply focus on coming up with beautiful graphs or things that we can show you. We try to combine the personalized learning at a mass scale. So how can we do that using the technology? How can the technology help the student, right? So we will be providing the student all the materials online rather than a packet that you'll be taking home, so that the technology can track what is your strong area, what is your weak area. And it's going to tell the teacher as well as the students, as well as the parents, what are the type of things that they are struggling in. And the technology will be able to make adjustments according to the students' needs. So as we go through that, if we realize that, okay, these are the types of word problems that your student struggles in, you will be receiving more word problems as practice. If you feel like timing is the issue for you, you take more time, the timer will get adjusted so that you will be able to practice with the timer. So the teacher, as they go through that, they'll be able to see, okay, these are the subtopics. These are the areas that the students would need additional practice in, and they will be able to also communicate that to the parents. And they don't even have to communicate. The parents, when they go in with their own login, they'll be able to see it. So one of the main things that we focus on is that transparency, right? Like what we do here is something the parents will know completely, and we focus on the learning process to be at a cognitive level. We have to make sure that the student conceptually understand it and they are not memorizing anything, right? So they have to understand. So why is this formula like this? Formula is for memorization, right? But even here, we'll talk about why do you think this formula is like this? Why do you think X is squared here? Why is Y not squared, right? Can you think about it? Why is it X equal to this? Can you think about it, right? So we are able to do that in a way that doesn't offend the kid, that doesn't make the kid any less. Even the kids who are coming in here with a score that they are not happy about, when they leave our center, we want them to feel like, you know what, I learned something and I was able to learn that, which is good. I was able to grasp that. I was able to solve that problem. So they leave with a positive experience. They're going to feel good. And that feeling is going to be shown in not just academics, it's going to show in their friendships. It's going to show in the way they talk to the parents. We have had so many situations where our parents have told us that after they started coming to the center, it's not about the academics that they are proud of. They are very happy about the way the students talk to their parents. He's not yelling at me that much. He's being nice to me. He's listening to me. He thinks that he should let me finish what I'm saying. And they feel like it's because of us. And again, that's why education is not just about the academics. It's not something you just look at the book and learn the things. It's much more than that. There are other things that you have to learn. There are other things that you would have to, and learning process is not a process that will make you feel low or less. It must be a process that should make you feel happy. It must be enlightening to you. So that's the kind of thing that we focus on. So our process helps the students, helps the parents, help the teachers, even the teachers who work with us. When they start, they feel it's difficult because it's different, right? It's not the way that they are used to working with the students. But once they know that, you know what, yeah, this is kind of different, but it's easier because now that student responds to me better, right? When the student responds to me better, then I'm able to reach to him. I'm able to help him better. And when I help him better, everyone is happy. Right? The parent is happy, the student is happy, the teacher is happy. And it all boils down to the one thing, right? Love with your learning must be based on love. It cannot be based on pressure. It cannot be based on reaching some goals, right? You should love what you're learning. You should love who is teaching you. You should love what you get out of it. Everything is tied together, right? So that's what we focus on. Those are the kind of things that we focus on. And the technology is something that is assisting us in that matter. College counseling is another thing that we focus on a lot. It's very important for us because we are a different college counselor than the others that you would find in the Bay Area, right? So we do not focus on just knowing that, okay, let's figure out what is the best college that you can go to, right? We focus on what is the best fit for you, right? What do you think you want to do going to college, and where do you think you will be happy, right? It's not a process to be stressed about. It's a huge milestone for you, right? It's a huge milestone for the student. And what would be the place where you want to start your life? That's not the end goal, right? You're not going to, like, once you go to college, that's not where it ends. You're going to be an adult when you enter a college, and that is going to shape you. And that is very, very important to us. So we focus on the fit, and we try to understand the financial situation of the parents. We try to understand the academic situation of the student. Every student is different, and we need to acknowledge that. There are social constraints, there are social things that you should be aware of. Whether California is a better fit for you, Texas is a better fit for you. Can you handle Midwest, right? It's not about the weather, it's about the social conditions, right? What you see on your Twitter feed is going to be very important, because you are going to be shaped by that, whether we like it or not. That's going to happen. Social media is going to play a huge role, right? So we don't want to fall into a small shell of, okay, these are the best schools, and let's make sure that we send our students to the best schools, right? And forgetting about the fact that whether they are going to be happy there or not, whether they are going to be able to excel there or not. Okay, we need to understand the student, and we need to make sure that we find a place where they can be happy, right? And happiness comes from confidence, like I mentioned, and confidence is key. You don't want to send to a place where we don't want to be in a place as an adult where we are not happy either, right? So we have to be in a place where we have to understand where the student. So we ask the student a lot of questions during this process. So we ask them, okay, what do you want to do? What is that you are passionate about? It's okay if you don't know that now, right? But we are going to encourage you to think further. We are going to encourage you to understand what you need. And that is a process in itself, right? College counseling is not about just finding the college. It's also about understanding what you want to do and where you want to exceed. So we will be focusing on that, and we will be helping them with their academic planning, with their college search, with their major. There are so many students that we are helping now who cannot decide on their major. They are not sure what they want to major in, right? Or their parents are asking them to major in something, and they don't feel comfortable with it. Just because they don't feel comfortable with it does not mean that, okay, you know what, you shouldn't do that. That's not what we do, right? We try to understand why they are not comfortable with it, right? We don't let them make decisions on a very shallow level. We ask them to deep think. We ask them to analyze. We ask them to research. We ask them to come back to us with the point. And then it can be as simple as, oh, I thought I hate computer science because I hated one teacher, right? Maybe you don't hate computer science. You just hated that one teacher for whatever reason. That should not reflect on the major that you are going to decide for your life, right? And we help those students think deeply. We help those students understand what they are looking to do, and we focus on helping them that way. So we are going to help them with college search, major research, and then once we have the colleges, we focus on selecting the colleges, writing the essays for those colleges, checking those essays, trying to make sure that the essays reflect their true self. There are so many things that the colleges would love to read in those essays, but the students wouldn't write about that because that is not an area that they want to go to. Again, they want to remain in a shell, right? They want to only talk about the great things that they did or make it sound as if it's great. But truly, colleges are not looking for that. They are not looking for a resume in the essay. They are trying to understand you better. So whatever your weak area, you think your weak area is, or whatever is touchy for you, write about it. That's perfectly fine. And we encourage them to do that. And in order for them to do that, they have to feel comfortable about doing that. They should feel like, you know what, this is something, it's okay if the world knows about it. I'm fine because this is what I have learned from it, right? Those are the things we encourage our students to talk about and make sure that they are able to write about it as well. So we make them feel comfortable about that. So when we do this, what happens is that the students are more authentic. They are authentic to themselves. They are authentic to their parents. And it spreads, like we cannot undermine the importance of spreading the confidence, spreading the joy. It really reflects. So once they are authentic, it's not just going to show up on their essays. It's going to show up on the relationships. It's going to show up on the way that they talk to their parents, their siblings, how they interact with their friends. Everything is going to change because they are getting the process of deep diving. They are getting getting to understand how to think deeper and not be just going with the trend, right? Like what their friends said, what their friends' friends said, what they were told as a success story, right? That may not be a success story. Or maybe that is, but that's a different kind of a success story. That's not your story though, right? Like you need to stick to your story. So that's what we help them to focus on. So in whatever area we do, whether it is academics or SAT preparation or college counseling, our focus is not just on academics or making sure that their numbers look good. We want to make sure that when the students leave our place, they are more happier, they are more confident, they are emotionally strong, and they want us to, we want them to actually think about this coming to Prepes as an experience that kind of channeled them, that made them a better person, that made them more confident, and they are able to look at themselves not by the mirror of social media or not by the mirror of what others think, but how they reflect on themselves and how they feel about themselves. That's the type of understanding that we do that. It's not an easy process, but it's a slow process. It's a practice. As you do that as a practice, it is going to come. And we confidently believe that that can positively impact the students. And that's how we have been doing business now. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Wow. It's a totally, new way of thinking, I would say. I didn't realize, just a second, there is an echo here. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry about that. So I didn't really realize how it is going because my daughter is with Shenba. I didn't want to mention it, but because she had a little difficulty in catching math and she's doing so well, and I have to now go back in and see how she really caught up on things. So anyway, thank you, Shenba, for telling us how you are doing it in a new way. I think we should move on to the next presenter and then we'll come back with the full-fledged questions. And I have about, there were 35 registrants and I had a lot of questions received and probably they're all waiting to see it in YouTube because they know that our YouTube floats around. So let's still go through all of those questions, but once the presentation is over. So let me, sorry about that. So now I would like to welcome Amisha Methani, and I'll give a brief intro about Amisha. Thank you, Amisha, for agreeing to present to us and be with us. And Amita Methani is a certified marriage and family therapist in Alameda. And she has a BA in psychology from UC Berkeley and a master's in counseling psychology from Palo Alto University with emphasis on working with children, adults, couples, and families. Amisha is passionate about working with parents and families in order to help bridge the gap that develops between generations, especially amongst immigrant families. Amisha grew up in India, but arrived to California when she was 15 years old. She went through the stressors of high school here and acculturation, into American way of doing things. She brings to us invaluable information about mental health and how it impacts the children's self of self. That's a nice way to put it, as they begin their journey into adults of tomorrow. When I asked her about, in my discussion with her about handling kids' issues, she says family encompasses children and they are a critical part of her work. In contrast to school counselors, healing, they have more training. When I say they, Amisha, the therapists like Amisha have more training on mental health, trauma-informed care, adverse childhood experiences, healing intergenerational trauma, and their experience encompasses working with parents and children in a systematic approach that brings families together. That's the bottom line here, I guess. So with that, I will welcome Amisha Metani to start her presentation.
Thank you so much, Sarvna. That was really beautiful. And I just want to express my gratitude to everyone who's here today to learn more about mental health and how you can support your children, how you can support yourselves. We're going through a very difficult time. We're mid-pandemic. We've all experienced isolation. We have experienced what we miss the most. And we've also come to realize what really matters. So mental health is a big time crisis right now. And I just am grateful for this opportunity to address how that impacts academic excellence and also just how much academics is built on good mental health. So with that, I have a few slides that I'm going to share. We tried this, but for some reason, this is not allowing me. Do you know what might have happened here?
Can you see the share screen at the bottom, Misha?
Do you
Sorry.
see the green share screen at the bottom?
Yeah, when I go to share screen, it says slides as virtual background, and I go to share.
So maybe, maybe you have to select the desktop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, something is happening.
Zoom wants access to control PowerPoint. Okay, and allow. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. This is a new way of doing things. So, all right, you guys. So welcome to just a short presentation of what emotional well-being is all about. So what is emotional well-being? The ability to produce positive emotions, moods, thoughts, and feelings, even during the most stressful of situations, the ability to navigate challenging life events. We're in a pandemic right now. School shut down, went totally on Zoom. Our kids went through so much in the last year and a half. So I just want to take this moment to say that everything that happens in a child's life since he's little, he being a universal pronoun, I will use that interchangeably between he and she. And as the child grows up, everything that happens is like a building block for larger stressors that are bound to come in our life. Imagine a child who is, let's say, eating ice cream, and then boom, ice cream drops on the ground. The child is feeling some big emotions. Those emotions, as he learns to process, sadness, lots of loss there. And if the adult around helps the child process, not just solving the problem, I'll get you another, or there you can have more tomorrow. This one, you learn to hold this better because we're eager to provide advice. But that child is grieving the loss of that ice cream, and his hopes, dreams, and wants are on the ground and melting on the ground. That, the way he learns to deal with that emotion that happens inside, sets him up for bigger stressors that come as he goes through more pressures in life, such as academic stressors in high school. So I just want to remind everyone, hardships are inevitable, but suffering is optional. So that's the tenet of what we're going to be talking about today, including sharing some strategies for coping, which are essential to our emotional well-being. So what is emotion? Emotion really is energy in motion, hence the word emotion. It really is, I'm going to use physics here. This is energy that just needs to move through the body. And as it moves through the body, it creates spaciousness to do other things, such as hobbies, education, whatever it is that we might want to do. When we suppress, when we're feeling sad and we suppress it, when we're feeling angry and we suppress it, believe it or not, we get sick mentally, physically, and that our relationships also suffer. Feelings are transient. Nobody felt sad or mad or angry or even great forever. Everything passes. So even these negative feelings that we don't like also pass. They are just needing to be processed. And if we suppress them, we're either making ourselves sick or we are postponing that process. They dissipate and they go away as we acknowledge them, as we honor them, and as we let them move through our body. Stress, that's the reason we're here today. We're all under tremendous stress, and stress has a deep impact on our mind, body, our feelings, and then our actions, what we do. When the stress is turned up high, this is very much like, I like to use the example of a stovetop. You know, we all make chai, we all make food. When the temperature is turned up so high, it is intolerable. So the idea is, when we look at life, it's not about avoiding stress. It's really about staying in the area of good stress, which is called eustress. When we go over on the other side, this is called distress. Now we're in a place where this is too much and there isn't a capacity to work through it, and then we can get sick if we stay in this for too long. So the idea is, in order to be able to have harmony in our body, we need some strategies to be able to mitigate stress. So how do we do that? I really like this quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And there's so many times we are feeling something, but we suppress it. And we try to put on a show, we put on a mask, we go to a party when we don't feel like it, we go to school when we don't feel like it, we just keep doing because it's just what we do. We're not happy then. We're really not happy. And if we don't work through that feeling, we're going to end up doing things that are not going to serve us. So here's an example of how feelings, thoughts, and behaviors are connected. Let's imagine an upsetting event. It's raining outside. Your child had plans to go out with a friend, but the friend cancels the social plans. And then the child hears mom is calling, hey, come do some dishes, and makes a comment that, oh, you're watching too much TV. What are some of the feelings the child might be feeling? Child may be feeling sad, a little mad, angry, maybe also feeling lonely and rejected. But maybe he's not processing these feelings, which I have named. In general, he's just feeling bad. Based upon that feeling bad, the thoughts that can present themselves as low-hanging fruit are, life just sucks, I have no friends, and no one else is this miserable. And these are all in the child's head. And over time, if the child continues to believe these negative thoughts, what will the behavior be like? The child will sulk, will likely have relationship issues with mom who wants to have the child come give a hand in the kitchen. Child may isolate, shut the door, not come out, doing private time, watching more and more TV or any kind of addictive behavior, some kind of screen time, not being very productive, become a huge procrastinator. So this is how thoughts and feelings impact behavior. It's all interconnected. So here's an opportunity to build emotional fluency such that children can then become resilient because they are already equipped with a lot of resiliency. We just need to show them how they have this power available to them. So let's consider two scenarios: reaction versus responding. Something bad happened, an upsetting situation outside. Child is feeling triggered. Negative feelings are coming up. Feelings, remember, feelings are normal. They're so natural. Something bad happens, we feel bad. Now, if we don't process it, we're going to leak these negative feelings onto other people. We'll spread it onto others. Then the other people will get mad. It will worsen those relationships. Child will have low self-esteem, some more negative self-talk, then poor focus on work and school. What we want to try to do is invite the child into feeling these feelings, naming the feelings. Naming is half the work, you guys. I'm feeling bad. Let's break out the bad into sad, mad, angry, upset, feeling a loss, some kind of a sadness, loneliness. When we can help children name these feelings and they can learn to be with them and process them internally, they will validate themselves. Yeah, I'm feeling sad right now because my friend canceled. I was really looking forward to going out to the movies and then sharing that appropriately with people who he feels close to. Mom, I'm kind of feeling really bad right now. I'm just really not in the mood. I just need a little bit of time. Mom may have empathy for the child's feeling bad, going, ooh, totally understand. Is there anything I can do? I kind of need some help here, but I understand if you need some time. Greater, better communication occurs, which pulls people close. And this is how we create joy. There's better focus on work, school, hobbies, whatever it is, because that feeling was processed, communicated to appropriately, and responded to. So this is how we can then respond to impetus that's coming from the environment. I really like to talk about, what makes a good life. This is a study from Harvard, Robert Waldinger. There's a TED Talk I really encourage all of you to listen to. It's a 75-year-old longitudinal study. That means they took these people, they were only 19 years old when they started following them. So through college, through all the ups and downs of their lives, who they're married, what kinds of things they did in their career, they actually did this work and published a studied the same people for 75 years. And what they discovered was social connections are better for health and well-being. Loneliness kills. Higher quality close relationships are more important than the number of connections. Good relationships are good for our bodies, our physical health, and also our mental health, our cognitions in terms of what all we're able to retain as we also age later in life, the cognitive decline. Happy people are always successful. Successful people aren't always happy. So how do we create happiness, you guys? So number one thing that we've been talking about is processing thoughts and feelings. How do we do that? Naming this feeling bad. Name the feeling. Write in a journal. Writing is a great way where you don't have to tell someone if you don't want to, but you tell yourself and you validate yourself that I'm feeling these feelings. You could absolutely talk to someone who you can trust, who can keep this in confidence. Because remember, close connections. And how do we have close connections? Point number 3, through vulnerability. When so-and-so happened, I had a really hard time. Get out in nature, exercise. We need those endorphins that actually jumpstart and make us more positive. Making gratitude lists. There is always something to be grateful for at all times. Go help someone in need, volunteer. It's when we remove ourselves from our own suffering and go into the worlds of another person and help them, we become grateful. We become happier that we were able to help someone. And then how do we manage this thing called anxiety? I received a lot of questions on anxiety. A very quick and easy tip is just anxiety is worrying about things that haven't yet occurred. It's anxiety is solving a problem that exists in the future. So what exists in the future that has you worried? Write down, make a list of things and cross them off. Easiest way to reduce that distress and come back into good stress, which is called eustress, EUSTRESS. Be still. Sitting outside, watching the water. Those of us in Alameda are so blessed to be around water. Yoga, meditation, some way to connect with yourself where you can be with your feelings and be with your thoughts. A lot of us often tend to have an inner critic, this inner bully that is constantly offering up negative self-talk. We could definitely do some work to soften that inner critic. And the fastest way, the most evidence-based way that I know is to do some cognitive behavioral therapy. What is CBT? What are we thinking and believing that is causing our suffering? So here's just a quick little synopsis on that. Maybe you've heard change your thoughts and change your life. So for feeling bad, it makes sense that we're also thinking negative thoughts. And when we're feeling bad, thinking negative thoughts, they make us feel worse, which causes anxiety or depression. And then we end up, we're cranky. So we have poor relationships with our own self, sense of self and others, which impacts our self-esteem. And then we have poor performance in all areas of our lives. So what if, how do we actually stop the cycle? We're feeling bad. What are we thinking? Let's question those negative thoughts. Let's let's validate the feelings. Let's reframe those thoughts into fair and balanced thought. Yes, it's raining outside. Yes, my friend canceled. Yes, I have to do dishes. And mom is commenting on my TV watching and my screen time. But life doesn't suck. I'm having a hard time right now. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling a little lonely. But I'm a good person. I'm going to focus on making more friends or trying to reschedule or understand what's happening that the friend had to cancel. Is he or she okay? That's called empathy. That's also called questioning the negativity. And the best way out is questioning those thoughts and feeling better. When we're feeling better, that is fertile soil for you to plant anything. It could be academics, it could be hobbies, it could be anything you'd like. What is our intent for our children? As immigrant parents, I'm a parent myself, I have 2 children. We want to give our kids a better life, better than what we had. We are willing to sacrifice our own happiness so that they could be happy. We want to set them up for their future. We want them to get good grades because we know how important getting a good degree from a good college is. So we put them in tutoring. We talk constantly all through high school. The word college is entered a number of times in a week. We want them to get a good job. We also want them to get into a great graduate school and get a higher earning job. These are all the things we want. I know this is what I want. We want our children to be able to have fame, money, find a good partner, and have healthy kids. It's just what we want. But how does our wants for our children, how does it land on their side? Let's look at that. Children often perceive what we want for them as control. They think that it's all performance related. If I don't get A's, I'm not good enough. I'm going to have to answer to mom or dad, or I might have privileges taken away. I'm just in trouble. I'm not good enough. Approval. I've got to have parents on my side. Otherwise, life is just not going to be good. For society, mom has to be able to share, look at what my son did. Again, back to performance and what will people say. And all of these above things also then land as how I'm feeling, and what I'm feeling doesn't matter. But you guys, this was not our intention. But yikes, to know that somehow it's landing that way on their side. So just a quick moment on what we don't talk about, what can happen. Teens are at increasing amount of risk. Pre-pandemic and pandemic has worsened some of these things. Kids get into addictions, be it some kind of substance abuse, drugs, alcohol, smoking, vaping, excessive screen time. Kids are getting cell phones much earlier, as early as 3rd, 4th grade. And those devices are addictive. They have addictive properties. Eating disorders, this impacts girls more than boys, but if they cannot control harmony at home, what can they control? Food. So binging, purging, or just, basic anorexia. Body dysmorphia. I feel this way, maybe I can make my body look this way, and then I can get approval. Lots of things of that nature are going on. Some teens run away. There's cutting. They're taking out their unexpressed or unprocessed feelings by hurting themselves. Anxiety is huge. There's panic attacks, depression. I can't get out of bed. What's the point? There's bullying that's going on. If they are not able to express their own feelings to themselves, well, some of them are getting bullied because those other kids are expressing their feelings of anger potentially on your child. And then the child is suppressing all of that because it might be connected to self-esteem in some way. Teen pregnancy, teen suicides are on the rise. What is addiction? To understand why we get addicted, instead of asking why the addiction, let's actually say why the pain. I really like Dr. Gabor Mate. Lots of YouTube videos are available. If you just Google Gabor Mate stress, Gabor Mate ADHD, Gabor Mate trauma or addiction, what he says is that underneath any addiction is often emptiness, emotional pain. And when we are feeling so much pain and we have no way of processing it, it hijacks our thinking and we mindlessly do something just because it feels good. We're not our best selves at that time. So the very coping mechanism that helped us feel good then becomes the problem. And that was either drug or alcohol or just Facebook, social media. It's addictive. We notice when we pull out our phone and we're randomly just wanting to just be on it when there isn't a need for it, it's because we're bored. That is some kind of a pain. As I begin to wrap up my part of the presentation, I just want to share some tips. What can you do as parents? First and foremost, I invite you to consider how can you have your children feel unconditional love. I love you to the maximum already. I wanted to have a child and I got you and I love you to the maximum already. There isn't anything you need to do to earn my love. And when a child is talking, invite your kids to talk, and they might not want to, but invite them anyways. And tell them that you just want to listen. And when you're listening, just be silent. Interestingly enough, silent has the same letters as does listen. So just listen. I'm going to be quiet. I just want to hear. Who are you hanging out with? What was it like? Why do you like this person? Oh, this person is kind. You're drawn to their energy. Just listen. Attune and empathize when something bad happens. Oh my gosh, that sounds like it was a hard day for you. Don't jump to problem solve. I've been guilty of this, and I'm a therapist, but we want to solve our kids' problem. It's so hard for us to see our kids struggling. We just want to go to, oh, this happened. Okay, do this. But it does not help. It pushes our kids away from us when we do that. Instead, if we can just listen and say, wow, that sounds really hard. What are you needing from me right now? We might actually learn something new. The child may say, nothing, I feel better because I shared something with you. Encourage kids to socialize. They've got to feel fun, play, laughter. Getting out and exercising, if they play some sport, excellent. It sharpens the brain. To be able to be out in nature, go do some picnics. If you're going to go look at some colleges, take picnics there, sit on the playground, listen to music, sleep. Sleep is so important. I really want to spend some time on sleep. Second largest brain development occurs between age 12 to 24, and the brain isn't fully grown until we're age 26. So what does that mean? IQs are 2 to 4 points on average higher coming out of these last few generations, and the trend is moving upward. Facebook was created by someone who was 18 years old. All of these tech executives, big amounts of brain growth occurs between 12 to 24, and sleep is super important. None of this staying past 11, 12. Well, if they're doing that, they've got to sleep in. So encourage good sleep hygiene. That's going to be really important. And therapy. Therapy is very helpful. Getting it for an individual, the child, or family therapy. Whatever your intentions are likely not landing there properly. Family therapy is an incredible intervention. Here's a few tips for teens as I wind down. Teenagers, feel your feelings. They may be intense, but totally normal. And share them with someone that you trust, as appropriate or as comfortable. Try to nudge past that comfort zone. And then process stress. Make a list, put due dates down, and then ask for what you need. If you're behind in a class, don't shy away from going to mom or dad or, I think I need some tutoring in this particular area. Sleep a lot. Do some self-care, get out and exercise, go walk the beach, go watch the shoreline, go sit in nature, listen to music, socialize, go see some friends. And do not shy away from asking for a therapist or going to a school counselor. I want to spend a minute on mental health, you guys. When we are physically sick, when we cough, and the cough doesn't go away, we go to the doctor, we ask for an antibiotics. Similarly, when the issue is in thoughts, feelings, or behaviors, we've got to normalize going to go see a therapist. That very thing that we feel is most personal is most universal. You're not alone. This is happening in every household. And when we don't go get help, things get worse. We have run out of the runway. We get mental health help right away, getting a good therapist, talking about what are kids thinking and feeling, and how is that connected to their behavior. Huge amounts of growth occurs on which you can build as you wish. A word on confidentiality. As a mental health therapist, the fact that I'm seeing anyone is completely confidential. I tell my clients the fact that you and I have a therapeutic relationship is your information to share if you want to. If I bump into you at Safeway or Trader Joe's or anywhere, because the world is too small, I'm going to try to not even acknowledge you. But if you say hi to me, I will respond. That means the fact that you're seeing a mental health clinician is absolutely confidential, even more so than a doctor's visit. So in summary, emotions, negative or positive, they are your friends. Name them, share that feeling. And these feelings are trying to make you aware of a very important need that you have. Honor that. And then live your life with confidence, greater self-esteem, and enjoy this lovely stuff that Shenba has just shared with us in terms of the wondrous things that kids could do, especially since the IQs are a lot higher right now. If anybody is interested in resources, my email is amisha@eastbayanxiety. I always love to help parents and children have a better relationship. These are just a few, snapshots, some YouTube links. I'm happy to email out my slides. And that's all I have right now. I'm happy to take any questions should any arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Amisha. The simple things we take for granted or try to ignore, or perhaps it's a kind of a new way of looking at things. It is really difficult, and there is a taboo around that too. Acknowledging it. So this is very helpful to hear. And we have a list of questions, and these questions, even just going through this will take time. But if people who are who are attendees here, please raise your hand, the hand button. We will unmute you so you can talk directly. Until then, I'm going to go off of the questions people already asked. So the first question, maybe it's both of you need to chime in. How to manage stress while submitting college application, probably more so for Shenba. Is it even worth applying for more than 10 colleges? It's surely for Shenba. Or is this a Bay Area specific problem?
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to take that. So let me answer the easy part of the question first, and then I'll come to the next part. So how many colleges should you apply, right? To start with, there is no particular number. There are some general guiding principles on how many you can apply, but it truly depends on the kid. There are kids who are very confident and they just want to apply for like UCs only, right? And there are kids who would like to have more options and they want to apply for so many different colleges, right? So I have had situations where the kids apply for just like 5 or 6 colleges and even up to 30 colleges. So I've had situations where 30 plus is also becoming more common nowadays. Okay, so it's not just with Bay Area. In my opinion, we are helping kids all around the US. We have kids from New York side, Texas side, and all over. And it's just the uncertainty that is making them nervous, right? There is not one thing that tells them that, okay, I've got this 1, 2, 3, so that means that I'll go to this colleges. It's not like that, right? That uncertainty is creating a nervousness and they want to apply to more number of colleges, which is perfectly fine. I think what I would say is you should choose a number that both the student and the family feels comfortable with, okay? Normally speaking, if you apply somewhere between 10 to 20, somewhere around 15 should be good enough if you have a good college counselor. If you have someone who can really tell you, okay, so these are the reach colleges, these are the safety colleges. If you feel like you have done that research properly and you're able to group that, yes, you can absolutely able to get into a good college by applying to approximately 15 colleges. But just because you want to apply to more colleges and have more options is not something that doesn't reduce what you're capable of getting into. It's perfectly fine. You should choose something that is more comfortable to you. How do we reduce the stress? That's an interesting question. To try to give a very quick answer, plan, right? Rather than not knowing anything and coming in on November 1st and thinking about, okay, let me open the application portal and see what I have to do here, right? Think about it, plan early on. The more prepared you are, the easier you're going to be. That's the first thing. You are going to be at more ease and you're going to be more comfortable. That's the first thing. The second thing is, there are so many good colleges in the US, so many of them, right? You may have heard about Harvard, Yale, and Caltech, and UC Berkeley, more commonly. But that does not mean that these are the colleges, those are good, and those other colleges are not good. So take that out. All of us here as adults, we can show proofs, plenty of proofs, where the students or people among us did not go to one of these colleges, but still did really well in life. You can see that it's not that hard. You don't have to struggle to find that. So many good colleges will definitely give you and your kid a very good, satisfying academic experience. So that is another thing you should be very clear about to reduce your stress level.
Thank you. Relating to the stress, how to keep kids stress-free in high school? Maybe for both of you.
I would let Amisha answer this first.
There is no such thing to be stress-free. If we're alive, we're going to feel pain. I think we're striving to stay in the good stress, eustress, rather than distress. So if you're feeling that your child is getting overwhelmed, what are some of the signs that the child is overwhelmed? Sleeping odd hours, staying locked up, obviously not getting good grades, or having psychosomatic issues like headaches or stomach ache. Kids feel it in their body. Remember that stress slide that I shared? We feel it in all areas of our body. Mind, emotions, and then behavior, not going to school or avoiding some class, being sick in some class. So imagine that your child probably needs some support. Hey, what's going on? You can talk to me. If we don't have that kind of a relationship, the child needs to talk with somebody. Could be the school counselor, because kids are becoming adults. I tell them, starting middle school, your child is on a ramp to adulthood. So they could be here on a ramp, or they could be here on a ramp. They are on a ramp. 18 is not that far away. 18 is considered adult. So they might start to keep a boundary with parents if they don't feel they will be seen or heard. But they do need to talk out what they're thinking with somebody. Maybe there's an uncle or auntie or somebody that you could facilitate that with. Or maybe if they're in scouts, maybe there's some mentor. They have to be talking to somebody, or of course, getting them a therapist. Like, I have these thoughts and feelings. Then how to manage stress, besides just the strategies that I shared, making a list. Sometimes we just think, there's all these things. Write them down. What are those things? And let's talk about it. It's very simplistic answer, easier said than done. But this stress is preparing them for what's to come in the next stage of life. So we don't want them not finding strategies to work through them. So you might not like my answer. Sorry.
No, I think that's a really good answer from our perspective, from an academic standpoint. When the students reach out to us, the very first thing that we tell them is that not just the students, right? Both the parents as well as the students, understand yourself first, understand what you need, take some time to reflect, take some time to think about it, rather than going off of what is best for your child. Don't go off of what others tell you is best for any child. That it doesn't work that way. So first understand what you are capable of, what the child is capable of, what do they really want, and take upon the workload that is something that is manageable for your kid, right? So that's the most important thing. Most of the kids, especially in Bay Area, make decisions on the subjects based on either what their parents tell them or what their friends are doing. And their parents make decision on what they have heard from their other friends and other friends' kids did. It sounds like it's not something that we would do, but we all do that. We all decide based on that, right? But we need to decide based on what we can handle. That's one thing. The second thing to reduce stress is stress comes from the expectation of an outcome, right? So you have an expectation, like you want your child to take 5 AP courses and do sports and do unlearn music and prepare for SAT and prepare for college counseling and excel in all of that and still talk to you nicely and not get upset and still sleep, right? These are all the expectations that we have, which what we need to understand is too idealistic. We have to be honest about that, right? I have a senior, my daughter is a senior right now. And yes, I have that same expectation. On top of all this, I'm also asking her to work in our business. So that is a lot. I'm expecting a lot from her, which means that she is going to be stressed. And ask your child, is that something that you're okay with? If not, let them make some decisions on what they cannot handle. You still have to teach them what is important for them. You still cannot let them decide, okay, that means I don't want to go to school, right? I'm not talking about that extreme kind of a thing. But generally speaking, take what you can handle and also understand that this kind of workload will have repercussions, will have some impact, which means that the stress is going to be there. We just have to learn to control it in a way that we can handle.
Thank you. Here is the next question, because I'm seeing with your responses so far, I think you are covering some basics people have asked, which is related to anxiety and stress management. As I read through the question, that's kind of keeps coming up, anxiety in different forms. Basically, it is anxiety and stress relief, but you are already addressing it in your response. So I'm going to go to slightly different question, which is maybe it's still related, keeping good parent and child relationship. How can we maintain that? With all this already you mentioned, right? It's very hard to keep good relationship, and it is important.
Yeah. So I'll go first, Shanda.
Sure.
That's okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot happening in an adolescent brain. Second largest brain development is 12 to 24, as I said. And from a psychology perspective, your child is going through a process of differentiation. What does that mean? You guys can Google it. Differentiation means the child's brain, as it's growing, all these synapses happening, he's connecting this to this and this to this, and hence this, there's a lot, it's booming. Differentiation that is also happening at that time is, how am I so much like mom and dad? And how much of outside influence do I like? Oh, I like how my friend's parent does this. Oh, I like how, somebody else does this. So they are trying to define who they are. And that's called the process of differentiation. And they're going to go through it. It is the rite of passage as adolescents. We all must go through. If we don't go through it in adolescence, because some of us who grew up in India, we were just raised a certain way. There was a template. This is just how you raise kids there. We got to postpone that and figure out who we are later on as adults. So But here in America, the kind of parents we are and the society we live in, differentiation is a process that's happening between about age 12 to 14 until like 20 and beyond. So as they're figuring out who they are, and given who they are, what do they need to do to be happy? Where does success fit in? How do they define success? Is it meeting my parents' goals, keeping them happy? But who am I in the middle of all this? There's a lot happening in that brain. So if they are not comfortable to process this with a good sounding board that can validate this process for them, it creates a lot of uncertainty, anxiety, and not knowing who they can trust, because it's not okay to show up as who they are, their authentic self. They have to suppress it. When we suppress something, suppression is depression. So my quick answer, once again, is mental health is crucial. Everything is built on good mental health, and we can keep this clean if we talk about what we're thinking and feeling. So getting a good therapist or having a mentor, school counselor, keeping the information flow. How does it feel when you did that? How did that make you feel? Process those feelings. And that becomes the child's moral compass, his or her value system. And you're crafting a beautiful adult, no matter what life throws his or her own way. He is or she is becoming resilient, a participant in life rather than, life is beating me down. And that's the healthy adults of tomorrow.
No, Shenba.
Sure. So I'll share my personal experience as I'm not a certified therapist, but so whatever I'm sharing is based on my experience as a mother, as well as the children that we work with, right? To answer the question straight away from a high school parents relationship, right, or a parent-child relationship from an academic standpoint as well, is that what we have observed is the students who are moving away from their parents or don't want to talk to parents or lying to the parents, these things happen when they feel like the primary reason why that happens is because they feel like they are not able to satisfy their parents. They feel like, you know what, I'm not good enough for their expectations, right? So there are two types of ways that the kids can handle that. One, they would say that, you know what, okay, I've done this much, I can try more. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to struggle more. I'm going to, even though it's hard for me, even though this is too much for me, I'm going to do whatever is needed to satisfy my mom, satisfy my dad, so that they can think about me more proudly. They can share this with their parents, right? Or with their friends, right? So that kind of stress, that's one way of handling it, which is not a very common thing. More commonly what we see though is it creates an anger. They're angry that they cannot satisfy them. They cannot satisfy the parents, right? And they say things that brings out a reaction from their parents. So the student says something bad, the parent says something bad because they are upset, not necessarily because they mean it, right? And and then they take few steps back. They say that, you know what, anyway, I'm not going to be able to make them happy. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. Why don't I at least do this and be happy with my friends? And they keep moving away from their parents, right? So everything, in our opinion, boils down to the expectation that we set as parents for the children, and how we expect them to meet that expectation, right? When there is not an open talk, or when my expectation for my kids does not match with what her expectation is for herself or what she wants to achieve, that's when the friction comes. And what we suggest to our parents is that we ask them to meet that gap, right? Either you slightly change your expectation or your child changes your expectation so that it matches. And when it matches, when you feel like you can, when satisfy what your child needs, and the child feels like, you know what, there is something for me to give to my parents to make them happy. And when you're able to bridge that gap, you can make the relationship better.
Thank you, Shanba. There is a question on time management. Can you give, one of you give tips? I'm going to move into other questions. So.
Yeah, sure. Let me quickly say something on the time management, Amisha, and I'll leave the floor to you. So time management is, again, coming back to understanding how much you are able to do. Everything boils down to what you can do. That is the key thing, right? The tactics, from a tactics perspective, right? Strategically, obviously, you have to understand what you can do and only take upon that much of a load, right? You don't want to do it just because your friend's daughter did it, right? If your daughter is more capable of doing this level of math, maybe that is the level of math, and we should not be in denial, right? But the most tactically speaking, time boxing always works, right? Irrespective of that, will also help you understand. So let's say that you have 4 homework to complete, and you can, based on the amount of workload, you can come up with a basic understanding of how much each of the work is going to take. Time box. Say that if for English, I'm going to just half an hour. If I'm not done within that half an hour, I'm going to stop irrespective of whether I'm done or not. And then I'm going to move on to the next task, right? It's going to be hard the first day because you feel like you are not finishing the homework. Somehow you should finish the homework. That's what you feel, right? But if you methodically do that on a daily basis, you will be able to understand what your true time box is, and you will be able to manage it more efficiently.
Amisha, do you want to add anything here?
You know, my answers are never as clear cut as Shenba's, and I know I'm realizing that. And I'm going to come back to whatever, if it's emotions that we're not feeling, we're going to run away from stuff. We're going to stay on our computer, not in Google Classrooms. We're going to be on YouTube. We're going to be watching, I don't know, what is the stuff kids watch right now? Someone performing somewhere, some music star that I know my daughter is into BTS. So she appears to be on her computer, but she's not on the site that I want her to be on. So how do we monitor this? The thing is, we can't, right? How much micromanagement can we do? Okay. So there is a point where we want them to want what we want for them. Mm-hmm. So now we're in the area of how do we motivate them? It's more about not time management, it's about motivation. Totally different ballgame altogether. And it's not about, hey, if you do this, I'm going to give you this. That's reward. It kind of works in elementary, maybe even in middle. In high school, not so much. So how do we get them to not extrinsic motivation, but intrinsic motivation? I want to get an A in that class. How can we make them want that? Well, now we're talking mind games almost, right? But it's not even mind games. Reflecting, when a human being, doesn't matter how old you are, when you feel validated at your core, I understand this is important to you, but something happens to you that when an exam comes, you kind of don't find yourself studying. I'm not being judgmental. Hey, you're not studying. That's not what I said. I said something happens for you that you don't feel like doing this. This is my observation, but I could be totally wrong. Let the child say, what is that something that happens inside of her? And then when she verbalizes it, you are having a totally different conversation. You're talking about something happens to her, not that she is bad. That's not how it lands then. Yeah, mom, I don't know. Something happens, like, I have this thing, but I want to run from it. We're having a totally different conversations. And when you're having the right conversation, there's always a way out because we're at least in the same room. So it's a very complex answer. Maybe I haven't even answered it, but it's just multifaceted.
Just different way of looking at things, I can see. So there are few questions, which is more directly on the college admissions and related AP test and all that. But before going there, I want to ask, as a parent, like all of the people here and whoever has asked a question in the registration are immigrant parents from India. Why are we feeling, why or even for the kids, it's kind of very new. That's why we are not able to relate to it. This level of anxiety, the level of stress. It's not that, the kids back home don't go through that, but it's somewhat different. Is it because of the culture there or the connectedness of the family there? They feel, I'm sure there is some level of, mental health issue still existing, but not to this proportion over here. And to the level that some parents who don't recognize, who don't acknowledge are being blamed. So can you throw some light on that?
Could you
The
clarify?
difference, the
clarify?
difference between, because we are all from India, we still connect to that, how we grew up, and or even the extended family still are there. And the kids, the anxiety, the stress, the mental health issue in high school or even the college is not to this level in India. Maybe, there may be still existing to some level, but not to this proportion. Why is that?
I would actually comment that it's really intense in India. I was 15 when my family didn't think I could amount to much in India and migrated here to California. So pressure is very intense. If her grades are not high enough in 10th grade, 11th and 12th, you have to pick arts or commerce or science and all of that stuff, right? My father was a doctor in India, MBBS. He gave up his practice such that I would be a doctor here. Well, guess what? I'm not one now, but the point is, pressure is very high there as well. I just want to point out, who are these people who immigrated, who were chosen to immigrate to America? They were the top performers because they got to come here because of their IQ, because they were going to be contributing members of American society because of their intellect. So we are inviting brightest of the brightest, and then they're having kids and they're, marrying partners that complement them intelligence-wise. And of course, these are the kids. These are the kids we're producing, and they are the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So when you say things are not the same, what population are you looking at? Because we have to look at apples to apples.
Yeah, that is true. I would, since we are teaching, having students in India, we are training them in NEET, JEE, and all of that. I would agree with Amisha that the stress is there also. But I think that what you are trying to ask, Sudhantra, may not be. I'm not sure if I'm wrong, but what you are saying, that you feel like it's more prevalent here compared to what you see there. And like Amisha mentioned, maybe we are not looking at the right population. That's also there. But one thing I would say, especially working with the high school kids, like teaching both the kids in India, seeing my families, like sisters' kids and my friends' kids, right? One thing that I would say that contribute to little bit more of our stress here is the unknown in the college application process, right? So my families, my sister's kids, and my friends' kids, and the kids that we are training there in India, they have a clear goal of a cutoff, right? Like you get this much of a score, and these are the things that you work towards, right? You do that, and you will, if you meet this cutoff, you will get into the college. The stress is not less there. Like Amisha mentioned, the stress is there, but at least there is some clarity there, right? Like, that this is what you have to work on, right? Here, the college application process is vague, and that is adding to our stress as well as the kid stress. So I have a 4 GPA. Am I done? No. I am into sports and I play volleyball really well. Am I done? No. I'm a great dancer. Is that enough? No. I wrote great essays, but my GPA is not that great. Is that good enough? Maybe, but I don't know, right? That's how it's going to be. Like, there is not one student I can pick and say that, you know what, you want to get into Harvard, you will get into Harvard. No, we cannot do that. But that portion of stress is not in India, because at least they know what they have to do to get into those colleges, right? I think that is what you are referring to. And in my opinion, whenever the outcome is unknown and whenever we don't know what we should do to get that outcome, the stress level increases, or it gives an appearance of increase, as if it is increasing. I think that's what you are referring to, right?
You actually touched upon that, but actually it leads to another question, which is, we are immigrant families, we are talking to the immigrant parent group here. So as immigrant children, who are the first generation kids here, can we say, assimilating to or growing up in the Western culture, but at the same time, the parents are making them hold on to the Indian roots as well, or the culture. Is that adding to the issue? I mean, we cannot leave it, right? I know I'm guilty as charged, but is it adding to the complexity of the situation?
I don't know. I don't think from what I'm observing, irrespective of what we are trying to do as parents to the kids, I don't think that any of these kids are stressed about taking a Bharatanatyam class or taking, their stress, the true stress that they experience comes from different venues, right? It comes from social pressure for them, from the other things, from their Insta feed, from their Snapchat feed, those are the things that are like really more stressful. And if the kids are into the roots of anything that is related to the roots of India, and we are trying to make them do that, we are doing it just for our own satisfaction. For some kids, it gets through. For many kids, we are yet to see what happens, how they take it after they become an adult, right? But in my opinion, for most of the kids, it will fall off as they go to the college. It's something that we are trying to hang to as much as we can. But the reality is, I don't think that is actually stressing them out per se. They're but then in my opinion, we need to still do that. We should still introduce that. We should still help them remember their roots, where they came from. Those things are all good, but I'm not sure if it is actually adding to the stress.
Amisha, what's your opinion?
So this topic is near and dear to my heart. For those of us who grew up in India, we were raised a certain way. In general, kids don't do what we tell them to do. Kids do what parents model to them, right? So if we are pushing them because we were pushed, it worked for us, that's a parenting we know. But what we're raising, our kids are growing up with internet since they were babies. Kids have cell phones attached to the palm of their hand before they were even 10 years old. Even kids in America did not, those adults did not grow up with that. We are dealing with a little bit of the unknown. And whenever we're dealing with the unknown, there's fear, right? Before the internet, before all of this, there was fear of the culture. Oh my gosh, I don't want my kid to get into dating, waiting, and all of that stuff. I already know what I'm going to do for that. He has to marry this or that, or, we have goals that encompass their social lives, because that's the parenting we got. We cannot do anything different because that's our template. So are you saying, should inviting parents to change their template and update it because our kids are American citizens? Because this is, do as in, as Romans do? Because that is a personal decision. But of course that causes clash generationally, right? But we're only going to overcorrect or steer in a different direction when there's a problem, not because, oh, we should be like this. Nobody changed unless the pain of not changing was greater than the pain of changing. So what does that mean? We're going to do the same template with how we were raised because we don't know how to do it differently unless we feel some pain, which would be, ooh, I'm losing closeness with my child. I want to stay close to this child. As such, what am I doing that's contributing to me pushing my child away? My child feels pushed away from me. Ooh, maybe I need to do this differently. That's going to come from there. And it's a natural process. It's already happening. More and more, we as parents can shed that we decided for our children, we decided to raise our kids here, not raise them Indian style in America. That does not work. So how are you feeling the pain is what's going to bring about change. And this is a beautiful area that we address in family therapy, really beautifully. So that's what I have to share.
Right. Thank you. There is one hand up here. Ashok, I am unable to make him panelist. Bomu, are you here? Or ask him question. Oh. Ashok, can you do it in the chat? Otherwise, sorry, I'm unable to make you the panelist. As we figure out, the questions here are, before I move that, it'll be a remiss, it'll be if I don't mention this. ACE Academy is our sponsor, annual sponsor. So thank you, Shanba, for being our sponsor, and it really helps supporting all our operational expenses. It is our sponsor. So I wanted to thank ACE Academy for that. And another thing, I know during the presentation it came out, both of you are parents of teens, so it is not just from your professional experience you are talking, it is also from your very personal hands-on context you're talking. So I wanted to mention that up front, but I missed. So it looks like Ashok says his question is already answered. So you both have done a wonderful job. So the last question is related to fully on academics. There is a question on how to handle school homework pressure. And then there are also two questions on talk about scholarship and college admissions.
Okay.
So you can start with probably school homework pressure.
Yeah.
That's all you.
Yeah. So again, this is related to the many things that we have talked so far, right? Any stress comes out of fear and fear of the unknown and an expectation of the result, right? So that's where the stress comes along. If you have a good grasp of whatever you are doing, if you understand that this is what I have to do, and if I'm able to produce that, then there is no stress, right? So if that means that when you are doing homework, if you are feeling stressed, that should mean that you are not very comfortable with what is expected of you, which means you do not conceptually understand what they are asking you to do, right? So reach out to your teacher. Ask them what's going on. So most of the schools, even in Bay Area, they are going to give homeworks only at a level that you can do, right? It's not like they're going to give you 10 days worth of work in one day, right? And they are going to adjust as well. So many of the schools, you can reach out to them and you can tell them, I had problem with my homework. I did not understand it, and that's why it took time for me, right? Be honest to yourself. That's very, very important, okay? As students must tell their parents, or at least to themselves, that, you know what, this is something I'm not able to understand. I'm good in many other things, but this one thing, just because I'm not able to understand this as quickly as my friend, as my neighbor, does not make me not a smart person, right? So you need to have that confidence. And only when you have that confidence, you seek help. There are so many instances, especially with the high schoolers, when they come into the center and they are working on it. I can see that they did not understand it, but they'll still say that, oh yeah, I got it, because they are so worried what I will think of them, what the student who is sitting next to them will think of them, right? You should be okay with saying that it's okay, I don't understand this and I need help. So whenever you need it, seek help. Conceptually understand what you're learning rather than trying to memorize it. Don't try to get answers in a shortcut way, in any way, because that's going to add up to your stress in the later days. 1.1, you were able to manage looking at your friends. 1.2, your dad helped you, whatever. Or 1.3, you were able to find some other problem and it was similar, so you just changed the numbers. What would you do when you get the 1.0 test? You are not going to be as comfortable as you are. So honestly understand what you need and handle the stress that way, right? And the second part of the question, what was the specific question, Sudhantra? Is it generally to talk about scholarship and financial things, or any specific question there?
It's just, want you to talk about scholarship and then overall college admission process. And of course, it also talks about AP, how many APs and all that. So it can build on, but that's what it is.
Yeah, sure. So this is a very broad topic. It's not something that I can answer in like a minute or 2 minutes. But quickly speaking, when you apply to the colleges will give the students, depending on their situation, depending on the application, depending on their need, some package. We are talking about the tuition reduction, basically, right? So we are talking about that, and the schools will give some form of aid to the students. Most of the situations, again, it's not 100%, right? Depending on how badly they feel like they want that student and how much they think that the student is competitive and will get admitted to other colleges, the college will give you some type of aid, right? Other than that, there are several other scholarships that are available outside as well. None of those that we are working with on a daily basis are all encompassing, right? Like there are some organizations available that can help you to reduce the tuition bill. There are so many websites that are available that can show you the list of scholarships, right? So they may provide a certain level of aid that can apply towards that college application or the college tuition. From a financial aid standpoint, it is going to be based on need-based, right? So if the family qualifies for that, if you believe that you will qualify for the financial aid, when you submit the college application process, include the FOFSA application in it. If you think that you will qualify, if you think that you are not going to qualify, you can always, the most of the college applications are need blind. Again, not all, most of them are need blind, which means that they are not going to decide on whether to take your son or daughter based on your financial situation. But you can apply the FOFSA anytime. But if you think that you will qualify, you can include it. Other than that, the colleges will look into your application and they will include the aid automatically, unless there are other specific grants that are available that are part of the application. That's why it's a very wide topic. It's not something I can answer quickly, but carefully look through the college application. There are certain dates that can be different if you are applying for a scholarship, for applying for a grant, and that differs by college. So as you go through that, look through that and see if you can apply for those scholarships yearly on, which means that you need to submit the application yearly on, and also apply for the financial aid if you think you'll qualify. You're on mute, Sudhantra.
Thank you. Before, the very final step, I would like to ask you both whether you can share the slides with me and I can send it to the registered folks.
Sure.
They were about 35, it's adding up. So I just want to share that with them. Although things will be on YouTube. So that's one. Number two, the very last question that, I want you to say the highlight or very key points in terms of ideas for managing teens academically and emotionally, which is the title. And they just want some real 30-second tips, what as parents they should do. I know it's not 30-second one, especially, Amisha, you always want to provide context, right?
Yeah, go ahead, Amisha.
But I do want both of you to chime in, and then with that, we will wrap up. Now let's start with Amisha. The highlight point.
You want me to do all this in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Wow. Of course. Okay. Feel your feelings. If you can name your feelings, that's half the work. I think I did it in less than 30 seconds. I'm feeling bad is not good enough. I'm upset and cranky and, not coming out of there, not good enough. Name the feelings and you could Google looking up the feeling chart. Feelings are expansive. So feeling bad, well, is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it you're feeling rejected? Are you feeling inadequate? You're feeling not good enough? Because if you can name the feelings, then underneath that feeling, what is the thought? If it's feeling of inadequacy, then you hold low self-esteem. That means your thoughts would be, everybody else is better than me. Nobody could understand me. Then that dials up the hopelessness. So 30-second answer is name the feeling. And then what's the thought underneath that feeling that you are? And if it's a negative thought, you can do a positive reframe and get on the right track.
Wonderful.
I'm not sure if I can do it as beautifully as Amisha did, but I would say that, for all parents as well as the students, try to understand what truly makes you happy, what you truly need, that is coming from within you rather than looking at someone else or any of the norms that are set by the social media or by your neighbors, right? So truly understand what it is and feel good about yourself. Love yourself. That's very, very important. Just because any scale that you see cannot adequately measure who you are. So feel good about yourself, feel the good things, and then anytime you need help, seek help. It's not a problem. There's nothing wrong in seeking help. You have no idea how much of help the adults need all the time. We seek help. If you are able to seek help without hesitation, you have already crossed a major milestone. Don't hesitate that and understand yourself and take on whatever truly you can manage and whatever truly gives you that satisfaction.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for joining us, and be assured that this is going to be a very good resource for the community be floating around. And, you can also slice and dice it, and wherever you want, you can also use it for your own self too. So thank you again and have a wonderful evening. And thanks for the participants, whoever stayed this long as well.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I truly thank San Francisco Bay Area Tamil Mandram for giving this opportunity. This is something that is near and dear to my heart, right? Like it's not like any other educational thing that we do. We do it with passion and we want to connect with the students. So thanks for an opportunity to talk about this.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much
Amisha.
for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.